Hello and welcome back to Sarah's Joyful Journey. I'm at Sarah Joy and I am so excited to chat with you guys today. I have something that is very precious to me and to my journey, and I just want to share my heart. I just want to share a bit of my story. So I hope you guys are excited to hear it. If you're here, go ahead and comment and say hi. If it's your first time watching, I hope that you enjoy this video and maybe you'll learn something. Just a quick disclaimer, I'm sharing my story and my journey and what I'm doing from the perspective of information that I have learned. But I am not a doctor or a nurse or a health care provider. And I am certainly not your healthcare provider in any way, stretch, or forms. This is just what I've discovered that has made sense to me. And I am working and moving forward on that. So thank you so much. All right. Thank you so much, Dustin. I really appreciate that $2 super chat. That's my first one ever. And I am very excited that you sent that. So welcome. Hello, hubby. I'm glad you're here, but you're always here. If you're not here, there's a problem, right? Hello, beautiful Sarah. I'm so glad that you are here. Hello, Dustin. It's great to see you. And again, thank you for that super chat. All right, so let's go ahead and get started a little bit with my story. And then I'm going to share about something that I saw this week that literally blew my mind and put everything into perspective and gave me a new renewed hope for conquering my goal, which my goal all along has always been to reverse type 2 diabetes and insulin resistance. And keto has taken me a long way. And it's a slow process. It is definitely not a fast journey at all. It does take time, and I'm still going to need more time to get to my goal. But I feel like I have hope at this point. So I started keto it's almost 3 years ago, and I have lost since my highest weight. I've lost about 85 pounds. I know I've already lost over 100 pounds total in my journey because I was well over 300 pounds. I just don't know what it is. I started my journey wearing a 26, 28 at one point in my journey. I am now down to a solid size 14, 16. So there is a huge amount of weight loss that has occurred already for me. And I have come so far with controlling type 2 diabetes and other metabolic issues and health. And then I had last year, which happened to me. I was doing fabulous before. Last year, I kept on keto and I kept going strong. And my food was dialed in the whole entire year. But last year, we had family issues with my sister's health. I got injured, had to have surgery, 2 new jobs, and then I barreled right into my coaching program. And some of that stress is good stress. Some of that stress has been bad stress. But either way, I just had a very stressful year. So now that I've had time to not be super stressed out and I have time to put focus back on my physical health because learning took up such a big chunk of my time. I'm stable in my job now. I really understand my job and I have the energy to be able to devote back into working on my goal of insulin resistance. So one thing that I wanted to do, which has always been helpful for me, is I love having a continuous glucose monitor. And last year they approved 2 for over the counter. They have the Lingo, which is by Libre or Abbott, the same people that do Freestyle Libre. And then they also do the Stello. So I talked with Matt and I said, I want to try these out. I want to see which one's better, how they work, how they compare to an actual CGM like the Freestyle Libre, which I've had experience with wearing for over a year, a couple years ago. So I ordered them and I am currently wearing, it's actually right there, the Lingo. And I'm enjoying it. There are some notable differences between an over-the-counter version and an actual prescription version. But for the most part, it allows me to be accountable to myself. When I put that first one in and I started getting the readings, which I didn't have at the time a way to do a finger stick. I do now, and I still am tracking the fasting blood sugars every morning. I was shocked the very first morning. I put it in. The day looked good because it was in the middle of the day. And then that very next morning, my fasting blood sugar was 154. This is type 2 diabetes range. Now, I know that at that point, I was still a little bit stressed and it was something different, but it sent a very clear message to me, which was things have gotten out of whack. And you now literally have to put this back on your radar. You really have to focus on the blood sugar issue and getting the insulin down. Because remember, I've stayed keto this entire time. That hasn't changed. Movement levels have changed and other things have changed. Stress and sleep and all that sort of stuff changed. And those do make a very large portion of what occurs in our metabolic state, as witnessed by the fact that I had a year where I just had so much going on. And I had a significant change because before last year, my fasting blood sugar was consistently in the 90s. So I was doing better than where I am currently now. And I will tell you that first blow was very hard. That was hard to swallow. It was just, it made me feel like I was a failure and that I haven't done enough, that I'm not good enough, that I've just have to restart over. And I reached out to a friend and said, look, I am dealing with this right now and I'm feeling awful. I said, I know it's not the truth, but the negative self-talk is still there. I still struggle with it. I know that many of you still struggle with that as well. And it's a tough pill to swallow. But like I said, I got some encouragement from a friend and I got some support. So community is so amazing and it really does make a difference. Just as Keto Simple right here is saying to my husband that he just loves to support this community. And I appreciate that, Dustin. I appreciate you. And then my husband also said that, Dustin is amazing, which is also very true. And we do, both of us love this community and how supportive this community is. This community means everything, and community means everything in your journey. Because if I didn't have community a week ago, when I started tracking my blood sugars and I was dealt that difficult blow that was hard to swallow and just caused me to waver there for a little bit, I could have easily continued down in that negative spiral, which could have led to other things. But because I was able to tap into community, I was able to have someone else tell me what I already knew. But it was somebody else telling me. So it overrid those negative thoughts that I was dealing with. But again, I'm glad that I know now because it, like I said, it gives me the opportunity to be able to focus on what is super important to me. And my goal has always been to reverse my insulin resistance and become metabolically flexible and metabolically healthy. Weight loss was not my goal. It's never been my goal. It's still not my goal. Is weight loss going to happen as I continue on this journey? Absolutely. But that's the cherry on top of this. My goal is to have the balanced blood sugar so that I feel amazing. I have no pain. I have plenty of energy. And I also really, really want to nourish my body properly. Let's face it, when we're eating ultra processed foods and things like that, we are not taking in proper nutrients for our body. So even though I was significantly overweight and I ate a lot of food, I was not nourished. So I definitely am coming from the perspective of nourishing my body and allowing my body to tell me what it needs. So what blew my mind is I watched a video from Dr. Boz talking about cured insulin resistance. And I've known a lot about insulin, just from my own personal experience with type 2 diabetes, which I got diagnosed with in my 20s, and I've reversed it a couple times now. But life happens. So But it just made perfect sense with what she said. So she was talking about it is very difficult to reverse insulin resistance, but it is not impossible at all. It can be done. And when she made the statement of this, I knew it was true. But then she goes on to talk about how that you do this and how she did it. And she did an N=1 experiment on herself and was able to notice the difference. So previously, she was eating in the evenings with her husband and her family. Then the hurricane happened, and she's in Tampa, and that, upended the apple cart, so to speak, and changed everything for them. So she ended up eating a different type of intermittent fasting. And she said that she hadn't connected the pieces before and hadn't realized this. But what she said is you need to eat for your own endocrine system. And you can check this by checking your blood sugar with a continuous glucose monitor. She says that is one of the things that if you want to do this, it's a must. I happen to agree with her. You can probably do it without it, but you won't know if you're making progress. So the continuous glucose monitor is going to make progress. So I saw this video on Sunday. Actually, I think I saw it the first time on Saturday. I've watched it 3 times now. And then I was like, okay, well, Sunday I was on day 2 of a 48-hour fast, and I ended up not feeling super great. I had a really bad headache. So I ended my fast early at 48 hours and ate. It was a little later than the day than I probably would eat now, but I made the commitment that on Monday, I am going to start tracking and I am going to start using the CGM to tell me how I am doing with my insulin resistance and how my food is actually affecting me. And let's be clear here, I'm not having major spikes. I'm staying in the healthy range, but it allows me to be able to dial it in. It allows me to see what happens, and she gives benchmarks for what to do. But one thing she said, and this is the part that really just was this aha moment for me, was if your blood sugar is above 90 at 3 p.m., your endocrine system cannot handle dinner. That's it. It literally blew my mind, and it makes so much sense because as the evening wears on and darkness comes, our insulin levels do start to rise naturally, especially in the overnight because of dawn phenomena. The dawn phenomena every single person has. It's what gets you up in the morning. If you didn't have it, you wouldn't have life. So, and it made a lot of sense because when I started tracking with my CGM and I was eating dinner the first week that I wore the CGM, not super late. I always eat in daylight hours. I was eating breakfast and then skipping lunch because that's what worked for me, and having dinner. Well, in the middle of the night, midnight, 1 a.m., 2 a.m., my blood sugar was going up. And I don't mean a little bit, I mean significantly going up. And this is before I even wake up. I was having blood sugars in the 130s and 140s. And I think at one point it went over 150. And that was alarming to me. And it was alarming to me before I saw that video. Now that I saw the video, I was like, that makes perfect sense. I was eating dinner. My endocrine system cannot handle that. So on Monday, I started making sure that I eat breakfast and I eat lunch. And my goal is to have breakfast around 8 a.m. It's not a hard and fast rule because things happen. And my goal is to have lunch completed no later than like 2 o'clock. And ideally between 1 and 1:30, just because that just makes it simple. And I will tell you, it was difficult at first because my 2 meals were much closer together. So I'm used to having breakfast, having like 6 to 8, 10, maybe even 12 hours, depending, between my 2 meals, which is a long, long window. And it's what worked for me. It's definitely shifted family dynamics because my husband eats dinner. I don't. And it's kind of made it a challenge because my goal is to have my breakfast be my larger meal and then my lunch be my smaller meal. But I have to pack lunch when I go to work. And it's been a struggle to figure out things that I can bring because while I have access to a microwave, I don't necessarily have access to a fridge. There is one mini fridge for the executive office, and we are able to use it, but they don't want everybody using it. So it just makes more sense not to use it. And then the microwave is all the way across the other end of the property, which I can go use. It's not a problem. I just choose not to. So I have to keep everything at my desk. So I need stuff that doesn't have to be reheated. It's been a little bit of a challenge, but it's working so far. This morning, I had dinner for breakfast because that's what I wanted. It sounded good. I had cheeseburgers with lettuce, tomato, pickles, and all the good stuff on it. Sorry about that. My daughter was calling me. I'll have to call her back. But anyway, I just wanted to talk about how important it is to really use your tools and try something different to achieve your goals of whatever that may be. And do that in equals one experiment. So I'm going to go over some of my personal numbers, and then I'm going to go over last week compared to this week and tell you what has changed and just give you encouragement and hope that things can change. And when you are dedicated, you can make those changes. But be sure that you're tracking in the right ways. And that is not the scale, my friend. I will tell you that for sure. All right. So May 19th, which was the first day I started tracking with my Keto Mojo, my fasting blood sugar, my ketones, and my Dr. Boz ratio. You can find the Dr. Boz ratio information online pretty easily by Googling. The goal is you want your Dr. Boz ratio to be under 100, ideally right around 80. The lower, the better in some respects. It just as a way to show you how insulin is reacting in your body. And I still have way too much insulin, but we're making progress. But anyway, my fasting blood sugar on the 19th was 141. Again, that is in type 2 diabetes range. It is what it is. My ketones were 0.6. So depending on who you talk to, that's in ketosis, and sometimes it's not, depending, but whatever. I had ketones present, so I'm happy. So that made my Dr. Boz ratio 235. That's not anywhere close to where it should be, but that's okay. You got to start somewhere. So then the very next day, my blood sugar, just by eating at 8 a.m., and by 1:30 and fasting for 18 hours and not eating after 3 p.m., I had a huge dip in blood sugar points. I went from 141 fasting blood sugar to the very next morning, 119. That is a big shift. Again, haven't changed what I'm eating, how I'm eating, the volume that I'm eating. No restriction of any kind has taken place. I simply moved the timing of my meals to better assist me in my goal of getting to reversing my insulin resistance. My ketones did drop as well, to be expected. Blood sugar and ketones, they kind of go along the same lines. So my Dr. Boz ratio did go up that day, and it was 297.4. The very next day, so yesterday, I was at 117 for fasting blood sugar. So again, it made a little bit of a difference. My ketones were also 0.4, and my Dr. Boz ratio went down just a little bit to 292.5. Then this morning, I made even more progress. My fasting blood sugar was 110, and then my ketones were 0.6, so those started to come back up, and my Dr. Boz ratio was 183. I'm still not where I wanted to be, but it allows me to be able to know that what I'm doing is immediately making effect. It's having a positive effect. So the other thing that I'm doing, which is going to help give my system a break and to help my body lower insulin and everything like that, is going to be fasting for 72 hours. And I have struggled with fasting. It's not been easy for me. Let's go ahead and check in with a couple of comments. So hubby said, small steps forward still count as progress. Yes. And if you want permanent weight loss and permanent health, it has to be those small steps. Those small steps are what keep it sustainable. Weight loss, if you want it to be permanent, is extremely slow. If you want to lose it fast, sure, you can lose it a lot faster, but you ain't going to sustain it. And then Sarah says that her challenge is not to drink sugar-free drinks in the evening. I totally understand this, Sarah, and I struggle with this. I still struggle with this. And part of this is what I'm doing is I'm making sure that when I stop eating, that means that no sugary beverage or sugar-free beverages, but no sweetened beverages. So I'm not having coffee. I'm not having Celsius. I'm not having flavored electrolytes. I'm just doing water and sparkling water, and then either my Keto Chow electrolyte drops or my Keto Chow fasting drops because of the same purpose. I didn't want it to have an insulin reaction, because my point is to lower my insulin reaction, my insulin response. So far it is going really, really well for me, and I am super excited about it. But back to the fact that I'm going to be starting a 72-hour fast, and I've never been excited. I've always struggled with this. I've always looked at it from it's a food restriction, and me and restriction don't go very well together. There's history of not having enough food as a kid and things like that. So it does create a mental barrier. But this time I am actually really, really excited about it, because it's not restricting my food. It is, in a sense, but it's not about restriction. It's about giving my endocrine system time to rest. It's allowing my pancreas to let go of that stored glycogen. And at this point, it's probably, as Dr. Boz says, super crusty and stuck around for a really long time. So I'm going to do this. And I've decided that it's best for me to fast on Fridays, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday. So I'm going to allow myself breakfast on Friday mornings, and then I'm not going to eat again until breakfast on Monday morning, which actually kind of gives me something to look for. So if you really think about it, it's like 2 days without food. 2 days, technically. Nothing on Saturday, nothing on Sunday. And having that mental capacity right there has been a big improvement for me. I will be doing a vlog about this first 72-hour fast, so you'll get to see that sometime next week. I'm planning to measure my ketones at 24 hours, 36 hours, 48 hours, and then of course 72 right before I eat. And we're just going to see how that, just how it looks and how it goes. And I know it's not going to be a fast process, but I'm super excited. Yeah, mine is hard crusted too, Sarah. There is no way around it. I think that I'm in this for the long haul, and the more I think about it, the more I realize that it's not going to be a fast journey. I probably won't even be able to say that I'll have reversed my insulin resistance within the next year and a half. And at 18 months from now is probably the soonest that I can see it. And it means that I have to be dedicated to keeping this script flipped, not eating super late, being done well before 3 o'clock, and then keeping my movement up. It is definitely a mental challenge for me too. I do know that the more that I mess around with it, the easier it does get. But I am going to lie. I'm definitely very, very nervous for the 72 hours. As much as I'm excited, I am that much nervous for it. But I know I have the tools, and I know I have the ability to do it. And I just need to remind myself that the goal that I want, I will not achieve it unless I give my endocrine system a break and I allow it to release that old, hard, crusty glycogen. And the best way to do that is to not eat for 72 hours. And you repeat that every week. The great thing is my job is pretty slow. I'm not out in the extreme weather like I was before, so this is definitely going to help. But I want to tell you too about how last week is stacking up with this week. Last week, I just changed movement. I added more movement into it. So, and I was very purposeful about the movement that I'm choosing to do. So I am walking because that has always been my number one. It's my favorite. It's what I love to do. And after much research, I decided that I was going to buy a rebounder because I was starting to experience a lot of inflammation, and what I strongly suspected was a lot of lymphatic fluid as well, and just stress. I was just feeling puffy. I was just not comfortable in my skin, even though, like I said, food's been on track this entire time. But I started rebounding and I started walking. And that very first week, I rebounded 4 sessions for 10 minutes each. And then I did 30 minutes of walking a day. So nothing super crazy. I was walking at about 1.8, 2.5 miles, somewhere in there, depending on how I actually felt. That very first week, I dropped 6 pounds. That is not fat loss, people. That is nothing but good old inflammation that I was carrying around. And I'm already suspecting that I'm feeling even better this week. I'm feeling even less puffier this week. So I suspect that I've lost even more inflammation. I don't know what it is for sure, but I definitely feel it like in my face and especially around my eyes because they were feeling very, very puffy. My hands were feeling puffy. Everything was just feeling puffy. And I'm doing much better because, again, I'm being purposeful about the movements that I'm doing to help me with my goals. And getting rid of inflammation, one of the best things that you can do is bouncing. So we'll see how it goes. I'm very excited for this next step in my journey. I'm very excited to see how things are going to end up, and I'm in it for the long haul. I think that within the next 6 to 12 weeks, within 6 weeks, I'll know that what I'm doing is making a huge difference. Within 12, I'll be on my way to those established habits. But in the meantime, I've got to set those small goals and that small movement and things like that. I am also watching what my blood sugar does when I eat. I have discovered that if I have too many carbs in a meal, my blood sugar will let me know. If I eat nothing but meat, I'm pretty stable. It'll go up a little bit, but it stays relatively stable. If I add in some veggies or things like that, or dairy, it does start to creep. It's not spikes. I do not have blood sugar spikes, but I can see the difference in my blood sugar based on what I eat, which I'm using as a tool to tell me maybe I shouldn't have those as often. I should keep them as occasional things, which is kind of sad because right now I'm in love with cottage cheese and could eat it every day. Actually, I have been eating it every day. I just keep my portion small. I keep it at about half a cup, but it is so good and I'm loving it. But yes, I'm going to use the tools that I have access to show me how my blood sugar is responding. And then Dr. Boz said one of the targets that you will know that you're well on your way to reversing insulin resistance is when you're at the 90-minute mark after eating, your blood sugar should be less than 110. I am still so far from that, but it is great. Yes, this is so true. Cottage cheese is raising my blood sugar too. Like I said, it's not a spike. It's not anything like dangerous. It's not like I went out and I ate sugar or anything like that. But I do see it's a little higher than I would like it to be. But I bought a bunch of it, so I'm not letting it go to waste. I'm going to enjoy it, and then it'll be one of those foods where it's going to retire for a little while, and I'm going to focus again on the foods that are nourishing my body the way that my body is telling me that I need. Because what works for me may not necessarily work for you, but I'm sharing this information and sharing my story so that it can inspire you, and maybe it'll allow you the opportunity to think and apply some of these things like, well, maybe it worked for her. I'm pretty curious about that. So I want to try this for myself and see what my results are going to be as well. But you are your own person and your endocrine system is your endocrine system. This is just what is working so far for mine. And I am super excited to do this. I'm keeping my movement in. I'm slowly increasing. I'm walking with a weighted vest on my walks. I am also going to be In the next 3 weeks or so, I'm going to be adding in more strength training. Right now, movement is my focus, and I want to be committed to movement first, and then I'll build upon it. Once I have that solid foundation of movement, I'm going to go to the next level. You're right, Sarah G. It is an N equals 1 all the way, because everybody's bodies are different. We're all very similar, but definitely different. Matt says, that is the good part of an N equals 1. You can try what works for you. If it works, keep it. If it doesn't, throw it out. This is very true. But to this point, I do want to make one note of caution. When you're doing N equals 1, you cannot do it for a week and expect all your results and then toss it out next week. That won't tell you if it's working or not. You need to stay committed to whatever you try for a minimum of 30 days. If you really want to see the effect, you're going to have to give it 90, and you need to change one thing at a time. Just one. That's how you know you're successful on your N equals 1, is you change one thing. It's not you do this and you do that. Sometimes when you do something, you are able to see a significant change right away, as I did with my blood sugar. It's not where I want it, but the very next day after trying this, it dropped a lot, enough to tell me that I'm on the right track, and I just got to keep going, which is wonderful. And again, when you're tracking your progress, you need to be using other tools. How your clothes fit, taking pictures of yourself, tracking how your face feels, tracking how your joints feel and your body feels. What is your energy like? Do you have a CGM? How is your glucose responding? And things like that. The scale doesn't tell you the whole story. The scale just tells you that your weight went up or your weight went down. But it doesn't tell you if it was fat that you lost. It doesn't tell you if that was muscle you lost or muscle if you gained it. Even a lot of these smarter scales, they can't specifically tell you that. They can give you an estimate, but they can't tell you for sure. So you need to track in other ways that show you. And track your mindset too. Make sure that your mindset is changing along with you. Because if you don't have that positive mindset and make those mind shifts, you will not succeed at keeping the weight off. Because I tell you what, everything that I went through last year, if I didn't have a better mindset, I would have given up. I would have given in to the sugar cravings or the desire just to quit and eat whatever I wanted and not care. But because I had the positive mindset, and community and other things, of course, it helped carry me through and continue on with my journey. And it's such an honor and a privilege to share my story, share what's working for me, sharing about what I'm excited about, because I am passionate about health. I am passionate about my health. I am passionate about other people's health. Sometimes I can be too passionate, and I don't necessarily, I can be very passionate. I've had to hold my tongue a few times at work. So it's been fun, but interesting. Hi, Nancy. How are you doing, beautiful? I'm so glad that you are able to join me this evening. But yes, it's wonderful to have the privilege to share this. And I'm super excited about this journey, which I really needed that revitalization. I needed something to feel fresh. I needed something new to just like spark my desire to continue my journey. And now that I have it, I have the tools in my corner. I have community in my corner. And I cannot wait to just share this journey with you and show you that it is possible to do this, and you don't have to restrict. You just have to focus on nourishing your body so that you can thrive and truly enjoy life, because it's not about restriction. It's about giving your body what it needs to be the best that it can be. And let's face it, we all know that that's not ultra processed foods in the standard American diet. But what works for me may not work for you. And I am also not a person who vilifies food. I think whole foods are amazing. There are quite a few that I cannot eat because they don't agree with my body. but that doesn't mean that they're bad. That they were created. The outside of ultra processed food, there is no bad food if it's natural. It's just not. It just may not support your goals and it may not support you and nourish you the best. And it's okay if you don't eat that. All right. Well, I have definitely rambled on for so very long. Well, I know that you are getting ready to go on a trip, and I can't wait to hear all about your trip, Miss Nancy. So I think that will be amazing. If anybody has any questions or anything like that, you can go ahead and leave them in the comments. But like I said, I'm very excited to share this next stage of my journey, and it's going to be amazing. If you're looking for a new TV show, give 911 a try. The gals at work were watching it and they kept saying, "You got to watch it. You got to watch it." My daughter kept saying, "You got to watch it, Mom." And it's been slow at work. And I've had my iPad and I started watching it and I am already in yesterday and I'm already halfway through season 2. Thanks to it being slow at work. But it is good if you want something good to watch. Oh, right. Well, I am going to go ahead and wrap it up for the evening so that I can start to wind down, because the other part of what I'm doing is making sure that I have a consistent bedtime and I have a consistent wake up time and I prioritize that rest. And I do need a good 30 to 45 minutes to wind down for the evening. So I am going to go and do that. I hope you all have a wonderful and joyful evening. And remember, find joy in your journey. And I will see you again on a live stream with another update next Thursday, same time, 7:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. I hope you all have a wonderful and beautiful evening.